Hey, you guys. So, welcome to Detox Life, helping your body help you. And this is all about how our bodies get rid of toxins. We're going to talk about several different topics in this module. We're going to be talking about um, why we need to detox in the first place. We're going to talk about how you go about living a life that is low toxin and toxin free. Um, and we're going to talk about toxins in food. We're going to talk about what a metabolic detox is, and how you might do that in the comfort of your home. So this is a really exciting topic because it is one that is not new, but the approach and the understanding of it is somewhat new. Is not the right word. The the right word would be more like just maybe groundbreaking. I don't know. You'll understand as I go through. But I say all of that because as a physician in medical school, you don't really learn a ton about toxin exposure. I mean, when you do, you learn about it in forms of high doses of toxins. One of the most common ones that I can recall from medical school was lead toxicity. And basically, they used to put lead in paint and other products, and children who might eat paint chips would get really, really sick. And it took some time to figure out that the issue was lead, and that this was causing neurologic problems in children. And even now, so if you are buying an older home that might still have lead paint, you have to get your house tested for lead. So I give you that background because that is about the extent of what was taught in medical school at least 20 years ago. Um, as it relates to detoxification. Within the world of functional medicine, we really reframe detoxification for several reasons, and we're going to talk about those in the coming videos. So let's just get started. Okay, so detox for what? The reason I started this like this is because I don't know about you, but I don't know how much detoxification you've ever talked about with your physician or as it relates to your health. And if you have, there's a lot of sort of lay information about detoxing and what we're detoxing from, why we're detoxing, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to try to give some context for this. So the average adult has about 300 toxins in their body. Um, and that's pretty shocking because you can imagine historically we did not evolve with this many toxins. And part of the reason we have so many toxin exposures is because we have so many more new products. We're developing new chemicals every single day. And these chemicals are getting into our systems. And we'll talk about that, how that happens in a moment. But what's crazy is that newborns have over 200 toxins in their cord blood. So, to say that adults have 300 toxins may make some sense, but when you think about it being in newborn cord blood, meaning when you deliver a baby or when a baby is delivered and you test the blood that is going to that baby, over 200 toxins can be found in that cord blood. And what that's saying is that these toxins that we're exposed to in our environment are impacting um, the development of fetuses. So you are getting exposed to a number of toxins even before you're born. This is really important, and we'll talk a little bit about that more as we go along. So there are over 10,000 chemicals added to our food and food packaging materials. 10,000 chemicals, and so the way that we get food. Now in days, oftentimes that food is often laden with all of these chemicals that our bodies then have to figure out what to do with. And many of these chemicals are carcinogens, meaning that they have been studied and been shown to contribute to cancer. Some of them are obesogens, which basically means that they can cause you to gain weight or make it difficult for you to lose weight. And then endocrine disruptors, which interfere with your hormones. Now, there's a big overlap between all of these, and there are many other types of toxins, but those are the ones that I think are most pertinent to what we're going to be talking about today. We're not going to touch much on carcinogens, but one of the things I did want to also bring up as it relates to sort of my my medical training, is that there's a word that we use oftentimes called idiopathic, and idiopathic means that a disease has an unknown cause, right? We don't You develop an illness, but we don't know why, and oftentimes we'll call that idiopathic. We don't know. And what's so interesting about this to me is that there are hundreds and thousands of studies that talk about how toxins contribute to illnesses like cancer. Um, and yet, in medical school and medical training, this is not something that we actually discuss, and we don't discuss the impact of these chemicals on these idiopathic diseases. So, I bring that up here to say that the reason why in functional medicine this is such a big topic is because oftentimes people who come to functional medicine physicians, they come because they have some form of an idiopathic problem, a problem that nobody knows why it's happening. Oftentimes we don't know the cause, we don't know what's triggering it. And one of the things that has to be considered are toxins. And this applies also when we talk about things like weight gain, right? So people who are doing everything for all practical purposes right, but they can't seem to lose weight. People who develop, diseases for an unclear reason. So we have an increase in the amount of thyroid disorders in the country. And the question is why? Why are we having some of these diseases becoming more prevalent in our society? And when you have studies that suggest that there are chemicals in our environment that can affect the way our bodies function and can lead to disease, we have to give a little bit more attention to these chemicals and what they might be doing. So, when we talk about toxins, you might be wondering, so what is a toxin? So, a toxin can be a lot of different things, right? But basically, they are chemicals that when they get into our body, that our body has to break down, and for it not to cause damage, and for it to be eliminated. And so, the toxins can be, like I said, from anything from the fuel that we pump into our gas, cars, the chemicals that are found in cigarettes, or pesticides, or as I talked about before, packaging of foods. So lead in paint, mercury in fish. So there are toxins in just about every corner of our society and environment. And what's really important for you to know is that we can't elude all toxins. I mean, like I said, there are over 200 toxins in cord blood of newborns. So there's no real way to get rid of all the toxins. But the question is can we reduce our exposure, and can we help our bodies detoxify from these chemicals? And so you might wonder, okay, so yeah, there are tons of toxins in our environment, but how do they get into our body and affect us? So I've talked about this ad nauseum about the way that our bodies, y- uh, eliminate, and how we get chemicals into our body that may or may not need to be there. But let's go through them again. So we breathe in chemicals all the time, right? So we talk about inhalation of smoke, such as in cigarettes or hookah, or marijuana. We talk about an inhalation of gas products from the exhaust from cars, or from um, chemical plants, or from airplanes. So we breathe in a lot of toxins. And toxins, let me just make the point that so there are toxins and there's something called toxicants. And basically, what I want to make the point is that some of these toxins are naturally occurring, right? So our bodies create toxins like uric acid, but then some of these toxins are man-made. And so we get toxins from many different sources, and some of them, aren't the, exhaust from airplanes that we think of, but a toxin can also be um, something that's inhaled, like carbon dioxide. Anyway, I'm going down a tangent. Let's move on. So you can inhale toxins, you can absorb it through your skin. So oftentimes we are putting on tons of different chemicals all over our bodies, lathering it on for soap. We're using scented oils and scented bath washes and all these other things. And so we can actually absorb what we're putting onto our skin. We can digest it. We talk a lot about that when we talk about the foods, and I'm going to really, hone in on that topic because it's a big one. And then we also ingest our own, right? The self-administered. So we take pharmaceutical drugs, we take over-the-counter drugs, smoking, alcohol, all of these our bodies have to deal with. And so we also have other toxins that are in our environment. Think about when people have allergies, right? So their bodies are responding to allergens in the environment. We also have what we talked a lot about during stress. The chemicals that are produced in our own body can become toxic to us, right? So things like cortisol, when they are when we are over producing them. And then we also have microorganisms like bacteria and parasites and viruses. So all of these are toxins. Okay. So the idea is that they're everywhere, right? And we have to be very cognizant of the fact that we can get them in many ways. We can get them into our bodies in many ways. And so this, like I talked about earlier, in medical school, we talked about toxins when we think about in a large dose. So if I were to take cyanide, for example, that would be a toxic exposure. If I took it in a large dose, I would know it immediately. If I took Tylenol, for example, at a large dose, that's a toxin that our body has to deal with. But if we take too much of it at one time, we would know it immediately. Alcohol is another toxin that if I took it at high doses, we would know it immediately. But in this world, one of the things I think that modern medicine doesn't take into account for is what happens when all of these chemicals, even at small doses, pile up in our body. And in functional medicine, we talk about that in terms of toxic body burden. And so, what many people who are maybe naysayers about detoxification and toxin exposure, they'll say, oh, well, there's only a little bit of toxin in your food. There's only a small quantities of toxins in the air. And we actually have methods for measuring the amount of toxins that we are exposed to and what is a normal limit or a safe limit. And what isn't oftentimes considered is that our body can only detoxify so fast, right? It can only detoxify so many things at a time. And so when we start to build up toxins in our body starts to react. And so when we talk about that word again, that idiopathic, and after a while you've developed toxins or you've built up toxins in your body and you start to develop symptoms and then diseases. And you say, well, I don't know why you developed that, Mrs. So-and-so. I don't know why you developed cancer. I don't know why you developed thyroid disease. I don't know why you having difficulty losing weight. But we do know that these chemicals that are in your body have been studied and have been shown to cause cancer. And we know that there are chemicals that have been shown to cause dysregulation in your hormones. And we know that there are chemicals that can cause difficulty in your ability to detoxify. So we know this, but if we don't address these issues, then how do we expect to fix them? So, this toxic body burden again starts even before you're born because you are exposed to toxins even as a pregnant mother, and then you can get toxins throughout your life. And at some point, your body is able to tolerate these toxins, but at some point, you get this overload, and your body starts to respond, and oftentimes that's when symptoms and disease appears. So you may be wondering, okay, so if I am exposed to toxins, how will I know it? This is where it gets really tricky because, as you see here, I've listed a random 20 symptoms, right? But the list of things that have been shown to be linked to toxins, the list of symptoms that have been shown to be linked to toxins is numerous and non-specific. So you can have anything from joint pain to PMS to constipation, diarrhea, to cancer and problems with losing weight and food cravings and trouble concentrating. Neurologic disorders are really big when it comes to toxins because toxins oftentimes can affect the neural system. Endocrine or hormonal issues are a big one because we know that many of these toxins affect our endocrine system or our hormone system. So the symptoms are broad and non-specific, which is why when you go to your doctor, they say, well, I don't know, because it is difficult to know. I'm not going to, sugarcoat it in any sort of way. It's difficult to be able to say, oh, this symptom is resulting in toxins. But when you are having these symptoms and you don't know why, if you have not thought about toxins, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So that's why I talk about it in this program, because you just have to. You have to think about toxins, and we're going to talk about how you might reduce your toxin exposure. So I just wanted to point out that many medical concerns are also related to toxin exposure, and many of the ones that oftentimes are hard to put your finger on. So things like infertility, right, or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. So these are diseases that when they happen, or conditions that when they happen, oftentimes there isn't a easy answer. Sometimes the answer is straightforward. If you get lung cancer and you are a 40 pack a year, 40-year smoker, it's like, okay, that's a known toxin that we've studied very well. And we know that cigarette smoke is related to lung cancer. Easy answer. But when you are a 52-year-old woman who is losing her memory and has early Alzheimer's, there isn't always an obvious answer. Um, and that goes for many of these other diseases as you see listed here. So that is sort of the introduction to toxins. In the coming videos, we're going to be talking about um, other aspects of toxins and how you can actually identify toxins and toxic sources in your life, and then how you can limit those exposures. And so I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.